it's a couple minutes after the hour. I just wanted to say good morning. Welcome everyone to the Small Programs Directors Roundtable. My name is Marc Falkenstein. I'm the Executive Director of Campus Life at University of the Pacific, and I am a member of the Small Programs Council for NIRSA. I'm going to go ahead and let my co-facilitators introduce themselves as well, and then we'll get into some ground rules for the roundtable this morning, and then start talking.
I'm Alicia Rossow. I'm the Director of Wellness at Florida Southern College. It's a 4-year private school, and I'm also on the Small School Council as well. Well, I think my term ends in like 3 days, but I was for the past 2 years.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mila Padgett, and I'm also on the Small Programs Council, and my term will end in 3 days as well. I'm at the University of South Carolina, Aiken, and we are a public 4-year institution.
Thank you, Alicia and Mila. So a little bit about University of the Pacific. We are a 4-year private university in California. So some of the ground rules for today's roundtable, we want to first and foremost start by saying we know that this is an extremely challenging time for all of us. And we want to bring everyone together today to engage in positive conversations about how we can continue to move forward and start planning for the future and what our new normal is. This webinar is being recorded. The chat box is being recorded as well. So throughout the course of our time together this morning, if you have resources, items, or comments that you would like to share with the group, please feel free to type them in the chat box. As we go through our topics of conversation today, we wanted to invite everyone to not only comment in the chat box, but Mila and Alicia will be monitoring the chat box, and they may be asking people to join in the discussion. When we ask people to join in the discussion, we ask that you unmute yourself, and as part of your introduction of yourself, if you could please include information about your institution, so where you're at, public or private, and whether it's a 2-year or 4-year college or university. So we'll go ahead and get started. We first and foremost kind of want to know, what are you doing that can easily be adapted by your colleagues? So for example, I can give our institution, our intramural program, as we've gone into remote planning, we came up with a social distancing bracket challenge. So we created a 32 item bracket, and our intramural staff came up with 32 different matchups for different things that people are doing. So whether it be Instagram, TikTok, there was a social media bracket, there was an at-home bracket, there was a school-related bracket, and then there was kind of a miscellaneous well-being. What are you doing to take care of yourself? We had some prizes that went along with that, and it was all done through Instagram. We had a really great turnout, and overall we had our champion was announced yesterday, and according to the voting of our students, the champion of the social distancing bracket challenge was sleep. So everyone was saying that sleep was their #1 priority.
We do have a question from the chat. Philip is asking and is interested in hearing how other community colleges' participation is going. And if you're from a community college, why don't you put that in the chat as well, because it will be saved, and then we can share those resources with each other so community college professionals could also get together. And Philip, if you're willing, since you're the first brave person to put something out there, why don't you unmute yourself and you could ask the group if there's something specific within participation that you are looking for.
Hi, everybody. My name's Philip M. Trapillo State Community College in Knoxville, Tennessee. It's a 2-year school. I'm just, you know, obviously everybody, this is a busy time for students and with everything else going on, we're in our final week of classes before finals. So we are definitely starting to see much participation in anything that we put out there on social media. And I was just curious, the same sort of thing, or if it's taking off for them. And I know, you know, a lot of our families or students are part of families, they're non-traditional, they may be working still. So it's kind of unique amongst the small group or small college setting. But if there's anybody else out there, I'd love to hear from you guys.
Rob Simpson is out there and he is starting a program for Starve Running, Cycling, and Walking for the challenge month of May, or to do a challenge in May. Rob, why don't you share a little bit more about what you're going to be doing?
Great. Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rob Simpson. I'm the Director of Campus Recreation at George Fox University. We are located about 30 minutes west of Portland, Oregon. Small private with 2,500 undergraduates. So we are getting ready to run a Strava running, walking, and cycling challenge during the month of May. I did a test run for the month of April with a group of 20 colleagues from athletics and student affairs and a handful of faculty friends that I invited. Worked out a few of the bugs during the month of May, and so now we are running that through IM leagues. We just opened signups yesterday and we've had really strong interest already. One of the things that we learned in April was that the best way to do that was to run 3 distinct groups. So we're going to have a running only group, we're going to have a cycling only group, and then we're going to have a walking and hiking only group. Students will track their minutes through the app Strava. And then at the end of the month, the students with the most minutes will be the champions. And we had lots of intramural champion shirts left over. And so this is a convenient way to use those and help folks get active. The nice thing is it's not based on speed, it's based on minutes. So whether someone is running 12-minute miles or 6-minute miles is irrelevant. In fact, in some ways, it probably incentivizes the folks that are going a little bit slower. If folks are interested in that, I'm happy to send you the exact text that we are using. And you could literally just cut and paste, take George Fox University out and replace it with the name of your institution. And hopefully that might be helpful for you.
Rob, would you be willing to put it in the chat just so everybody can see that, and then for the recorded people as well?
Yes, I will figure out how to do that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yep, of course. It's worth mentioning that I don't know how much of a challenge it would be to manage this on a larger university campus. I suspect it might be a little overwhelming. So maybe 5,000 undergrads or less, 8,000 undergrads or less. I think if much larger than that, probably would be pretty challenging.
Andy Doyle also wrote in here, he's using Challenge Runner as another option. Andy, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. We're using Challenge Runner. I'm sorry, Andrew Doyle, Southern New Hampshire University, private 4-year with about 3,000 on campus. We use Challenge Runner. We found out about it probably about a month ago in one of these first sessions. It's been great. They have a free option. It's been super convenient for our students and faculty and staff to use and upload, whether they're doing a squat challenge, plank challenge, we're doing like a month-long marathon, trying to keep people consistent. I think we have about 6 challenges running up until the end of April. And it's been super easy for people to jump on. And I think what we learned from using that app is that convenience is key right now. Not having programs where people have to be there at a certain time because everyone's schedules are all over the place. And that's really helped us. And I'm hoping we can continue keeping that in mind when programming moving forward.
Thank you, Andrew. Robert, do you actually want to tell us a little bit about your self-care challenge and a little bit about how you're doing that?
Hi, this is Rob Simmels from the College of New Jersey. We basically, luckily, have an intern who is very good in the wellness area. So we basically came up with these different simple challenges that develop self-care. For sleep, it's 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And then what we did was, or ways to get better sleep, turn off your devices 2 hours before going to bed. So what we did is made a social media challenge where they would take a picture of whatever the challenge was or after the challenge or some way showing the challenge. And then they post it on our Instagram account. And I don't understand the way Instagram works. My students deal with it well, but make it so that we could track what they're doing. And at the end of every week, we announced a winner for that theme. So we'd have a winner of the eating theme, a winner of the sleeping theme. And at the end of it all, which will be the end of this week, we'll have an overall winner of the challenge. We've progressively gotten better over the weeks in terms of engagement. I think the first week was kind of the second week they were in these online classes, and I think they just weren't ready for the engagement. And it's going well, and we've actually had some feedback about how what we put out there, along with then we have different messages of why sleep's important or why eating's important. So we do the education behind it as well. And we've got some really positive feedback, and the students are saying these are things I want to continue doing post the challenge. So it's educational, but also gives them a way to engage every day or every week with our social media.
Very cool. Thank you.
There is another person up there with a virtual engagement recreation piece. Is Colleen Fritz, if I said that correctly?
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Hi, everyone. I'm in Boston, Massachusetts at Northeastern University. We've just completed a virtual platform for engagement. It includes a variety of pieces. There are videos from group fitness instructors posted. There are resources from other fitness areas. Something from Spiritual Life. IM Leagues is doing an e-sport bracket. We just launched it yesterday, so we're just anxious to see what type of engagement we're going to get at this point. Most of our students just finished finals and projects, so we didn't want to interject too much too early. So we're a little bit late in the game, and we're just hoping that we can garner enough interest with a variety of platforms that we offer.
Well, thank you. There was a question out here for anybody, and you can put your answers in the chat. If you are giving out any prizes, probably also how are you disseminating those prizes? You could put that in there too. And, or are you just encouraging people to be getting out more active and there aren't prizes involved? So if you want to answer those questions, if you are doing anything like that, you can put that in the chat. Mark has a question about how much energy is spent on current programming during this pandemic versus planning for the future. So comparing what you're doing right now and what you're having to put together versus looking at, all right, here we are going to be reopening summer, fall. Anybody, and I'm sorry about my cat, she's coming to visit. Anybody want to talk about that?
Mila, I'll touch on that real quick.
Okay.
Florida Southern, I think we spent more time in the beginning just trying to stay afloat and figure out what we could do to put out there for our students. But we're actually not planning much for the future except maybe little things around when we're opening. Until our college actually tells us exactly what day fall classes are starting, it's really hard for us to plan an exact calendar and plan that stuff. But we are planning how we're going to open. And I know Mark's going to talk about it a little bit later, but there is a call tomorrow, a director's call about how to properly open and get ready for the rec center. So I think to kind of answer your question, I'm planning just to keep our students engaged for the next little bit. Our students actually end school tomorrow. The last day of finals is tomorrow, but we've already committed that we will program all the way through May, just for right now, and then we'll start to switch gears to fall.
To expand a little bit on what Alicia was saying, to the focus of tomorrow's directors roundtable is on the return to campus and kind of, what that means to reopen our facilities, our programs, provide services to our students. As we all know, we're all at different places in the country, and we're all under different restrictions from our respective state governments. So the timeline and the return to campus is going to be different for all of us. For those of you that have been staying up to date with the NIRSA Connect group, there was a post from yesterday by Alex Aceta saying that the kind of COVID-19 working Google Doc that he created now has, they've added a section on reopening, and that it's been updated as of yesterday. So that's for me personally been an extremely helpful resource using that document as it's evolved. And I personally would encourage everyone to take a look at that document for resources amongst not only the return to campus or how people are handling COVID-19, but also programming and supporting and planning for the future. So we know that there's going to be this entire kind of hour-long webinar tomorrow dedicated to that one topic. So we don't want to devalue that webinar, nor do we want to devalue the topic, but we want to make sure that people are aware of that, because there may be more and better information there around that topic. And with that being said, we recognize the need that there may need to be, following that roundtable, a specific small programs reopening roundtable, which we've already been in discussions about the possibility of needing to host that. I know I've seen a lot of, I know to expand on Mark's question in regarding to programming now versus programming for the future, again, one of the things we wanted to talk about today was planning for the future. I'm fortunate, I have, including myself, who I would say about, a quarter of my time is dedicated to the recreation program. I have 2 full-time staff members that work in the recreation program. So they have been balancing their time planning for the current engagement versus, really our short-term focus is what is going to happen in the summer. We know we have defined from our university that we will be doing remote instruction in the summer. So we're trying to plan for the summer right now. And then I've taken on the planning of beyond the summer, so the long range planning. So I'm spending almost all of my time that is dedicated to the recreation program planning for the future. So projecting budget cuts, potential restructures, what are the staffing impacts that our institution will be facing, and those types of larger scale conversations and questions. And it looks like there's been some more stuff in the chat, so I will turn it over to Mila and Alicia right now.
Well, kind of playing off of what you were just talking about, Mark, thinking about the financial impacts and understanding that we all may have to make some budget cuts, I'm curious if anybody has some innovative ways they are either beefing up revenue to offset some of the budget cuts you may have to take, or even areas that you're looking at that, okay, we might be able to put this on pause and maybe not hit it right now. So you can put some of those things in the chat, and then we'll be able to look to see if we want to have anybody talk a little bit more about it.
While people are in the chat right now, at Florida Southern College, we've been told that any of our major, like our big programming, like we do a big rec fest once a year that is roughly a $10,000 event, and programming like that, we've already been told to take that out of our budgets, and all that money will be spent for cleaning, disinfected, basically making sure that our facility can open. So when I prepared my budget, I just took all the big programmings out to spend on that. And we're going to do a lot more smaller programs that cost a lot less money. So it's been a challenge because we have to kind of refocus where we're spending our money. But at Florida Southern, we don't bring any money in. We're not a revenue driven program.
I can tell you from South Carolina, Aiken, we have been charged to do more cross programming. So anytime we're looking at big events, we already did work together a lot across our campus, but now things may be cut and we would only be focusing on 1 or 2 bigger events or even smaller ones. But I report under student affairs, and we have all been told we are going to be doing these events together and combining budgets versus everybody doing their own individual events this year. Brianna Lacey just put something interesting in the chat about considering renting dumbbells and BOSUs. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Sorry. This is Brenna Lacey from Missouri Baptist University. We're a 4-year private university with about 1,200 on-campus students. We are pushing all in-person programming right now through the summer. So we've had several employees reach out and who are interested in dumbbell sets, because I guess they're sold out a lot of places online. They've been trying to acquire them, and BOSU balls and mats. So we just started talking about this yesterday, what would be a fair price, because it's just sitting there collecting dust. And also what would be involved in just the, legal part of it, like waiver, what would be the cost of the equipment if they needed to replace it or didn't return it. But they could have it for 3 full months. So yeah, I mean, it would be a great supplement if it's, it might be a small amount, but something we've kind of put on the table because every little bit helps.
Yeah, it's creative. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
A couple other area or comments in the chat, like some people are looking at shortening hours. I know that we've also looked at that. Trying to get a hold of all the refunds that we've had to give. So that might be something also to put in the chat box, is how many of you have had to give back any kind of refund from your student fees if you are student fee driven versus not. So I can tell you at USC Aiken, our housing and meal plans did a refund, but all of our student fees were not refunded. And I am not student fee driven specifically. I am more an allocation, and my allocation was not taken from me at this point. Could still be, but it hasn't at this point. Matt is asking, have any schools out there been told exactly what they are going to have to be cut next year in their budgets due to COVID-19? And I can tell you we haven't been told exact amounts. It's still up in the air. We just had our orientation numbers and our registration numbers to come back for the fall. So our sophomores and above is down about 20% right now. So that is pretty terrifying, honestly. So our institution, which isn't necessarily just within recreation, but we are contacting every single student that we have. Everybody has 6 to 20 students that they are to reach out to and contact, ask them how they're doing, and make a personal touch point. And so there are people across the entire university that have been given different student names. And we're on sophomores right now. We've just completed freshmen, so we're going to work through all of our returning students. Someone is saying hiring freezes. Mark, why don't you share a little bit, and I know I should know how to say your last name. Someone help me.
Turiaga.
Turiaga. Oh, sorry about that. Why don't you talk a little bit more about what you're, like the non-structure part of things?
Yeah, so I think one of the challenges I have with the pandemic is this, and I totally appreciate it and understand it, is the focus on priorities. So, you know, the first part of the pandemic was, okay, what are we doing? Where are we closing? What is our staff? And as we get towards that and seeing that this is going to go on a little bit longer, I see a lot of energies being put onto getting back to normal. And I think one of the challenges with that is that I'm not sure, we've had roundtables and NIRSA conference presentations about this, that normal probably wasn't even ideal prior to the pandemic. So we were always talking about how do we get more participants and more engagement from those not. And then so with this pandemic, we're trying to get back to that. And so one of the things I encourage everyone, and I'm hearing a lot of that happening, is that, oh, let's take this time to strategize what the new normal looks like and what the ideal rec situation for your institution looks like. That's hard to do when we're focused so much on the structure. So we're worried about fees and equipment and revenues and that. And what I'm not hearing is about the people that we service. And so is this the time to take a look at something like intramural programming and say, are we running intramurals in a way that is conducive to our student population? And that's going to be different all across, but it's about asking that question and shifting that lens to the people side of it, instead of wondering, do I close hours? Do I minimize games? All of that is about the structure. Maybe intramurals isn't the way to operate at all anymore. Maybe it's not cost effective. Maybe it's not meeting. We know that students are less reliant on being programmed structurally. They like the flexibility and things like that. And so what I'm wondering is who is taking this time to kind of take a pause, and I know it's impossible and it's so on the back of our minds thinking about, you know, budgets and cuts and cleaning and how are we going to reopen, but thinking about how do we service the people and what they need and want, because my fear is we're going to get back to servicing a sport and rec culture that where we are not getting new participants in, because that structure, and I use intramurals, I was an intramural coordinator for over 10 years, where we focus on the structure of the intramural rather than the people playing. And so we think about how many games and how much it costs and the equipment, instead of saying, well, what is the experience the student wants? Does it need to be competitive the way that it is? Does it need to be scheduled and programmed the way it is? Could it be, hey, we're going to open up the gym and have drop-in basketball for 3 hours straight, where we hire student staff to facilitate drop-in games when people can come? It's about saying, let's not worry about getting intramurals back up and running. It's almost asking that question, do students want intramurals? Which students want it? How do they want it? Can we get other students involved, or are we eliminating or preventing students from participating in intramurals because it's too competitive, it's too stringent? Who knows? Where is that strategy and conversations happening with our planning and our strategy to really talk about the students we serve? Because what I'm hearing a lot, and I understand, is we're trying to place the programs back into a structure when really it's about the students and the people we're serving and what structures fit them.
Thank you for that, Mark. I wonder if that kind of goes into looking at some of the items that you may have in place right now, and if you have engaged different people differently, and brought new people through the doors, their social media doors? And what are you going to keep that is touching those individuals a little bit more than what we used to offer? Does anybody have items that they know, you know what, this has been a great success for us and we're going to keep it, and it might change what it looks like in the fall?
Yeah, hey everybody. This is Ian Brown from Texas A&M University Kingsville. I've got one on leave and another one that's the cheerleading coach. So it feels like at times we're a pretty small program. 4-year public institution, regional, about hovering just under 6,500 students. You know, I mentioned earlier in the chat, we put on a virtual marathon that was really successful. It was very similar to Rob's program, only it was social media based, where participants had to complete 26.2 miles in 26 days. And we partnered with student activities and the housing department. Student activities had a plethora of budget left over since they pulled all of their spring programs, and it allowed us to use some of those monies for prizes and giveaways and that kind of things. And we had a huge increase in participation. I'm just wrapping up my first year here at Tamook, and this was one of our most highly participated programs, and it was all virtual. And I think the thing that is kind of interesting to me was that, you know, even in a time where the things are crazy and things are unknown, there's still people that are craving this. There's still students that are craving participation and community. And it was cool to see them share socially everything that they were doing in this process of completing the marathon. You know, anecdotally, one of the first students that completed it had never really, he was not a runner type. So I actually had to, I had to grill him a little bit to verify that he actually did complete that marathon. And sure enough, he did. And I'm curious, what I'm driving at is what made that student or those students participate in those programs. And I think Mark is on it right now saying the drop-in. I think students are looking for non-heavy commitment looking participation. And what does that look like for us? How can we facilitate those drop-in experiences where it's bite-sized and it's more accessible to them, come and go? And I think esports is another arena that's about to blow up, and that is a very interesting thing in itself. I mean, we've had great roundtable discussions that I've joined in. I think Andrew and Matt facilitated a great call yesterday about esports, and so yeah, I think right now it's bite-sized participation.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. You know, if I look at some of the things, it is hard to think that your normal isn't going to look the same. An example for us is I more than likely am going to be getting rid of group fitness, traditional group fitness, which I started in fitness and wellness. So for me to like take that off, it's like ripping a Band-Aid off, but it's one that needs to be ripped off. It's not working for us. And it's not that it won't work, it just can't be and look the same exact way that it is right now. So I think that we will all be challenged that the status quo, just like both of you were just saying, is not going to be the status quo any longer. And it will even go a little bit further that some things will work at some places, but it doesn't mean they're going to work at another. And that's okay. I think we get put in this box that says if we're not doing X, then we're not successful. And that is absolutely not true. We're all going to look very different. And we have to be open to that wherever we end up going. Robert Simmels, if I said it right, is, oh, there you are. He just put in about the virtual Group X programs. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I'm sure that a lot of people are doing some format of a virtual Group X.
Yeah, so we we're doing every different form. We have live, we have Instagram live, and then we have recorded classes. We gave the instructors the option of how they wanted to format their classes. And we've actually increased, our numbers are better than our in-person classes. We're actually getting more people to take the online classes than in person. Some of it is free now. We do normally charge a semester fee for group fitness. I think that could be part of it. But what we're getting is a lot of the students who would normally want to take the classes but can't, because we have a lot of students on internships in classrooms, in hospitals for part of the nursing programs that can't get back to campus. So they're appreciative that now they have the opportunity, especially the recorded classes, they can take them anytime. So we really feel moving forward that we don't know what it's going to look like yet, but we want to really take this virtual aspect of it and add it to our programming so that now the students that can't get back to campus can still engage with our instructors, so engage with our program and be able to be part of what we have to offer and not necessarily have to go to a private health club and pay that membership fee or something else to get these group fitness opportunities. So we're really getting positive feedback, and our instructors really like it too, because they're enjoying it. Some of them are enjoying it more than others, but they're also being able to create a portfolio of this online, more of an online presence for themselves. So post graduation, they can actually maybe start some businesses or do some things that help their fitness, whatever they want to do, fitness related, after they graduate.
Thanks, Robert. Does anyone, one of the questions that the three of us had come up with was how we are assessing any of this new stuff that we're doing out there. If anybody has any great assessment tools, strategies that they're doing, that could be another thing put into the chat box. Because we will have to prove, you know, I'm having right now to prove that I would like my social media student to stay on over the summer. We don't traditionally program a whole bunch in the summer months because we slow down quite a bit, but I think this summer is going to be different. If we want to engage those students, we want them to come back. I don't know that it's smart to just completely cut off everything we've been doing for the last 7 weeks. But you're still going to have to prove that it's working and engaging students and really retaining them. That's probably one of the most important. So you can also put some different things in the chat box on assessment strategies. I can tell you one of the things we looked at were the analytics behind, we just didn't do a great job of tracking that before, and we're absolutely tracking it now. And it's gone up 200–300% compared to what it was in the traditional, what I guess it's called traditional, before we went on the COVID journey.
I think Brenna has a very good point about how our budgets could be cut a little bit if there is so much virtual programming. Brenna, you want to talk a little bit about that?
I really would open the floor up to anyone else, because I don't have any good really suggestions at this point. But I think my concern is with budget cuts already, likely, and all the free resources out there right now that we are having success with on virtual programming, I think the analytics and assessment is a great, one of our key points that will help if we do need to look at continuing some of those services, because I have an idea they're not going to be free forever. And so just trying to determine, okay, what is relevant, what is worth investing in moving forward, but also if we don't have that budget, then where are we and what do we do?
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure in other schools what your guys' plan is for continuing all virtual programs, but we've already been told at Florida Southern that we will have to continue virtual programming. So even though we may have normal intramurals in person, we're still going to have to do virtual online intramurals. We're still going to have to do virtual Group X. So trying to find like a happy medium with that. And so I'm going to be interested to see what type of budget we'll have to be able to continue to do both. But Brenna, I think you're completely correct. I think we're going to have to be careful with the budget. And somebody put on the chat, every decision will be data driven. So I think if we can continue to show that we have data in that, maybe we'll still be able to do those kind of programs. But if anybody else has anything else, please write in the chat. We can call on you.
I would also say, to build off of that, I think this topic we're just transitioning to, assessment and using and data-driven decisions, are there ways that we can use the data to support a potential increase in a cost? You know, if you have an assessment, say, there seems to be a lot of feedback in the chat about the success of virtual Group X programs. And let's hypothetically say, you know, you're at an institution like UOP that, while we have access to Zoom accounts, it's only for our colleagues in academics. So if we wanted to have one, we'd have to purchase one, but we've also been told that that's not the preferred method of teleconferencing. But if, hypothetically speaking, in one of your assessments, you have significant feedback from participants that says, participation in virtual Group X has led to my decision to return to campus in the fall and remain a student at my institution. Could you not take that data forward to try to say to your supervisor or your respective budget manager, look, we really need to find a way to be able to have access to this software system to be able to continue to engage students and assist with retention? Because I know kind of, you know, again, University of the Pacific, small private in, you know, just outside the Bay Area in California, you know, cost of attendance is $60,000. With our discount rate, you know, we look at about $25,000 to $30,000 a student in tuition dollars coming into the institution. If I go to my supervisors and I go to our VP and I say, look, I've got 20 students that have said the reason why I'm coming back to campus is the virtual group fitness classes you're providing. We've reevaluated our budget. We can't afford this. Is there any way we can do this? Think of the cost benefit of having 20 additional students retained. And then versus the cost of actually, you know, getting us a license. I think that's one approach that, you know, we need to be thinking about as part of kind of showing our value, but also using the assessments that we can to increase the value that we bring to the table.
I'm curious up here because Matt McGregor is on here. I'm going to call him out. You are also stating how you think things are going to change. And within your role at Longwood, how do you see that impacting our areas along with other areas on campus?
Thanks, Mila. Matt McGregor, Longwood University, four-year public, about 4,000 students. I think part of it is the change that we've already started to go through, where we've been involved / leading the wellness, well-being concept. And I think that's, at least on our campus, that's where we really get the value for what we do. And so as a campus recreation department, we're focusing on that. And that was the discussion our team just talked about yesterday was when we really need to start to look at what we consider essential services for the university as a whole. And that's a bit of a paradigm change for us, because we've talked about from the start of this journey we've had at Longwood about comprehensive recreation and providing a little bit of something for everybody. And I think higher ed's going to change. There's going to be some changes that come out of this. And so we need to really be focusing in on what we do well, not only what we do well, but what the university needs us to be involved with. And I think being able to have those conversations about the value of wellness and well-being, and not just for your physical health, but for your academic performance, and being able to be in the room on those kind of discussions is really where we're trying to focus and look at just not only what do we want to provide, but what does our university need us to provide to be a part of the bigger picture.
Thanks, Matt. I think too, just to think about, which Mark also alluded to, is in your assessment data points, I think the qualitative end is very important. Even sometimes more than the numbers. And I know I'm probably not in the majority with that, but understanding you can't get true experience completely based on a number. Somehow you have to have focus groups and conversations and know where our students feel that they're getting the most value from us. Because I'm going to age myself a little bit. I have been in this field for 25 plus years. It's not the same as when I was a student. And we have to recognize that. I don't think it's the same even from 5 years ago. So sometimes it's hard to take your own biases out of the picture. So I'm curious if anybody wants to put into the chat, what kind of qualitative things are they looking at when they're, and I know there's a few comments that some direct reports up, they may not care. We may be in a little time frame that it's really bottom line, but it won't be like that forever. And we have to be thinking more future. So that could be another thing that could be really helpful for us. And what are just a few qualitative things that we could be looking at right now and get from our students? They will be more forthright virtually. So they will tell you how they feel if you can get them to connect virtually and give you some information. Just reading through the chat. There's a lot of good information in there. I would say we have, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I remember Alicia sharing that you did some work with focus groups in the past. I don't know if you're doing that going forward, but maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, we actually were supposed to have focus groups this year at the last week of March, but of course those were all canceled. So what we did instead is the same people that we were supposed to have in each focus group, we just sent the survey out, which is obviously not as good to have them in person. But we sent out a survey per category, like intramurals, outdoor rec, that to each focus group to try to get feedback that way. And then we also sent out a major survey. But normally every spring we do a focus groups. So we get anywhere from 8 to 10 students. And then my intramural person would run our outdoor rec focus group. And then my outdoor rec person would run my intramural focus group, just so we're not having any crossover. The biggest way we get people there, of course, is food and free stuff. And then we always keep every focus group. I know a lot of times people want them to be longer, but we keep them to 30 minutes. And we usually have 4 to 5 quick questions. And we get a lot of great data. So we were really excited about doing it this spring because I think every year we do more in the focus group realm. I'm happy to send stuff to you guys, send me an email or whatever. I don't have all my files with me. So a lot of it would have to be when I get back on campus. But focus groups are great. I know people do surveys all the time, but I think this is a great time for us to figure out what worked this year before pre-COVID and what's going to work after. Thanks, Christine.
I think we're kind of close. We have about 9 minutes left. And I do know that this is going to be the topic for tomorrow's roundtable. But is there anyone that are in any of the states that are reopening that we may not be on that yet, but you're going to probably in the month of May? If anyone is from, I'm thinking it's Georgia, Tennessee. Is anyone on the call from any of those states and could talk about maybe their reopening plan?
Hey, this is Lashika from Columbus State in Georgia, and we got an email this morning from our director, from the institution, saying that we are not reopening right now, that we are we're creating an opening plan, but we are not reopening at this moment.
This is Philip Ems from Knoxville, Tennessee, and our county and state is reopening on the 1st of May, but our college is doing a very slow phased reopening. So the only thing happening the next week when things are opening up is like students that have lab things that have to be done in person, like exams of those kinds are happening on campus. Nobody else is coming back. They've told us all to kind of hold in place for a while still. So
at USC Aiken, we have a cardiac rehab program that we collaborate with the local hospital. So we are an outsourced partner with them. And we have a reopening date of May 11th, which is really coming from the protocols and the procedures of the hospital. So it'll be interesting. We've done a lot of sit down of what that's going to look like, and it's going to look quite a bit different than our normal operation, obviously. But that will be our first anything on campus outside of the essential personnel that's been there. So we have 2 weeks to figure that out. And if we can't reopen, they have definitely said that we don't have to, but we are all intensive purposes, that's what we're doing.
This is Anthony from University of Central Arkansas. So our governor never issued a shutdown, but in a couple of days, they're going to issue, I guess, information as far as reopening gyms. We're not going to open up in May for sure, but we're going to kind of see what happens from the opening of gym standpoints. To include, we have a hospital's wellness center in our town, and they are going to be opening up once the governor provides guidance. So we're going to kind of watch that guinea pig take place and see what happens.
Well, how's everybody feeling? Good place to wrap up? I'm going to turn it back over to Mark so he can close us out, but thank you so much for participating.
Yes, thank you everyone for participating this morning. This has been for me personally, has been a very impactful and positive conversation. I greatly appreciate all of the feedback and the participation from everyone. As we begin to wrap this up, as we stated in the beginning, this webinar has been recorded. That includes the chat, so you'll be able to go back and reference not only the video, but the chat as well. And we strongly encourage everyone to continue to engage with one another through the NIRSA Small Programs Connect board. We really believe the Small Programs Committee has worked very, very hard to increase engagement through that platform, and we're hoping that we can continue to increase engagement. So as you get information or your institutions are making decisions and you feel that it would be beneficial to the entire association and specifically the small programs, we would really appreciate if you could post that information there. Or if you have questions and you want to engage similar conversations as we've had today, that's a great place to reach out to your colleagues and to engage in those conversations. So with that, thank you so much to everyone for joining us and participating today. And we hope this was beneficial and look forward to connecting with everyone again in the future.